got a bunch of different tackle that I've been making up. I didn't film all that stuff that I was making, but I got a tournament coming up at Lake Shasta at the end of January. So I'm starting to slowly kind of get some stuff made. You saw those Finesse jigs. I got some ball head jigs in there. And something else that I showed you guys is this pack of Sharpies right here. And I have a feeling that those are going to come in handy, maybe up at Shasta, maybe at some other point during the year. But I got that stuff to kind of do on-the-fly color changes. So if I need to make, you know, a blue line red, or just change something small in the color, I can just grab one of those Sharpies. I got, you know, a ton of different colors, and just add some color to the bait. Color a tail chartreuse, or add red to a bait, or add some purple somewhere, because not all the different tackle specific markers are all available in as many colors as Sharpies are, so that's why I got those Sharpies. But what I got in store for you guys today is we're gonna make a pretty basic color, but we're gonna be using the Caney Creek glider mold. And you've seen me make them in the past, doing the chartreuse tails and stuff like that. I offered them up for sale. But today we're gonna be making some Caney Creek glider Ned Rig baits. And that's what I'm gonna be using them for. I'm making these baits for myself, and I'm planning to use them up at Lake Shasta at the end of the month for my FLW tournament. Those spotted bass up at Lake Shasta really like a Ned Rig at times, and with my Midwest Finesse jigs that I make up myself here in the garage as well, with those Caney Creek glider baits, I really think that's gonna be a good combo, and something a little bit different that they may not have seen as much as, you know, the traditional Ned Rig baits that are out there. I'll probably be messing around with that in the 6 cents a Ned fry, trying to figure out what those fish like a little bit better. Maybe they don't want to eat the Ned Rig, I don't really know, but that's what we're doing today. Is we're gonna be making up some Caney Creek glider molds for me to take up to Shasta and throw them around and see if those spotted bass like that bait. I'm sure it'll catch some fish, but it just depends on if it's catching the right numbers and the right quality. Depends on if it's going to be something I have on during tournament time, but I definitely want it for practice, and I'm going to show you guys what I'm making up in today's video, so stay tuned. So the colorant that we're going to be using today is primarily going to be the Watermelon Green Soft Baits X2 colorant. Might add some watermelon brown in there depending on how everything looks as we're getting the Plastisol all colored up. And then we're also going to be using some of the purple glitter and black flake. It's going to be the 0.008 purple glitter and the 0.15 black flake. And I think that that's going to make a really good color combo. I'm going to be going for a watermelon black flake, green pumpkin black flake with a little bit of purple in it. For today's color, I want it to be a little bit more on the watermelon side, so it's going to be a little bit more green than it is brown. Real quick though, if you guys are new to the channel, please subscribe. If you've been watching my content for a long time and haven't subscribed yet, please do that. I'm really trying to grow this channel, and I need all those subscriptions to do that. If you like today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you have any questions, make sure to ask them down in the comment section, and also tons of links down in the description of today's video for all the stuff that I'm using, so make sure to check that out as well. But yeah, if you're new, please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and let's get back into it. Let's make these baits. So what we got right here is the Caney Creek glider mold. It's a 4-cavity mold made by Do It Molds. They got a ton of different options over there on their website, so go make sure to check them out. Link to this mold is going to be down in the description of today's video. So if you want to get it or want to check it out a little bit further on the website, make sure to hit that link and head over to Do It Molds and check it out. Okay, so there we have, we got 2 cups of Plastisol that are ready to go in the microwave to heat up. Remember, when you're making plastics, you want this Plastisol to get all the way to 350 degrees, so you get the chemical reaction to occur, so that way it solidifies into the right texture for your plastic, and it's not all sticky and gooey and gets all messed up. So make sure to get to 350 degrees. Okay, so our Plastisol is ready to come out and get stirred. I put it in there for a minute to start off with. I like to usually go about a minute for the first, you know, heat or two round of heat, and then I'll slow it down and go 30 seconds at a time to make sure that I don't burn it. But usually that first minute or two, I'll do it 1 minute at a time and then start slowing it down. So I've mentioned this guy on the channel in the past, but you want to invest in some type of thermometer in order to make sure that you get your temperatures where you want them, because if you shoot laminates or 2-color baits, you want your 2 different colors to be around the same temperature. So a good way to do that is by getting a digital thermometer like this. It's an infrared thermometer, and the temperature reads out right here on the back, and that's what I'll do later on to make sure that we got our Plastisol up to that 350 degrees. Okay, so we're definitely at a point where it started to thicken up and clear up too. So now I'm going to start slowing down and heating it up at the 30 seconds at a time. But as you can see, there's still some mixture in there that hasn't started to clear up and set up. But this is the point where I definitely am going to want to start slowing it down so that way I don't burn the Plastisol, turn it yellow, stuff like that. So if you're making baits and your Plastisol starts to turn yellow, that means you're starting to burn it. A lot of times it's still usable, but when it starts to get yellow like that, it definitely is starting to burn. Okay, so it's time to check the Plastisol. Definitely think it's pretty close, if not ready to go. Take the temperature, 349. 350. Okay, so we hit it. We're definitely close enough that I'm not going to risk heating it, but I am going to start putting my colorant in, stuff like that. And what you want to do is start by shaking up your colorant. This is the watermelon green color by Do It Molds, the X2 colorant. And the reason why I'm not trying to go over 350 with this is because I know I'm going to put it back in the microwave so I can get it back up to temperature if I want to. But we're going to start off with putting a little bit of this in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I counted that off because that's probably about 8 drops depending on what kind of colorant you use. It's cold in the garage. It's probably like 50 something degrees out here, so it's not real thin. It's definitely a little bit thicker than it is sometimes, so that's why I just kept going. So that's probably about 8 drops, but we'll get it all mixed in here. It looks like I'm definitely going to need to put some more in there, but you can tell that it's all really cold because it's kind of like little bits and pieces in there almost. But we'll get it all mixed in there here pretty quick, and then we'll start adding some of that flake in. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to grab a little bit more of this colorant, and I'm going to put a couple more seconds worth of colorant in there, and then we'll keep stirring away. We definitely want to stir all the little color flakes out of there, not the actual flake, but for some reason that colorant kind of broke up while I was stirring everything up, probably just because it was pretty cold. Like I said, it's probably in the 50s in the garage here today. But keep stirring this up. Definitely greened up a little bit, but it's too thin for sure. So I'm going to go with some watermelon brown now. Shake that up as well. And then we're going to do just a real quick, it's because I just want it to brown up just a little bit, but not a lot. So that was 3 drops. And if you end up liking this color and you want to be able to remake it yourself, just follow along and kind of keep the recipe. It was 2 cups of Plastisol, about 10 drops of watermelon green, and 3 drops of watermelon brown X2 colorant. And we're getting pretty close to what we're going after, but it's still going to be too thin for sure. What I'm going to do now is I am going to throw some of that flake in there to see what we end up with. I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon of purple flake, 0.008, and then I'm going to do 1/4 teaspoon of 0.15 black flake. Might darken it up a little bit, which is why I wanted to put that in there now, because sometimes I've noticed the black flake darkens things up a little bit, which I think makes a little bit of sense because the flakes are kind of small, so it kind of blends into the plastic, and then you end up with a little bit darker hue than you are anticipating. But I definitely think I need some more green colorant, so we'll add some more watermelon green in. Couple more seconds, so I would say we're about at 12 drops now. And then what I might do here pretty soon is I might just run a test bait through the mold, because you can always melt that back down, but that's real faint. I don't know that I want it that see-through. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another thing of watermelon brown. So now we're at 4 drops of that. Another one. So 5 drops of that. And I just realized I messed up in what I was using. I had watermelon brown the last time, and then literally the last color I put in there was watermelon green. So you're going to have to follow a little bit of that because I spoke incorrectly and put the wrong colors in. The colors are going to be fine that I put in there, but I ended up misspeaking and basically grabbed the wrong bottle.
but I think we're close enough to run a test bait to kind of see how it looks. Definitely like the flake in there. I think that turned out good. But let me get an injector out, and then we'll test this out and see what they look like. Okay, so we got our injector right here. Got our mold set up, and this is just the Do It Mold's dual injector, and I just took it apart to make it into a single injector. So we got our Plastisol right there. We'll draw it up, and we'll go over to the mold. Even pressure down. That Plastisol's still real hot, so it didn't take much pressure effort at all to push it down. I'm just going to hold that pressure because the clamps I got on here aren't the best clamps. It's not super tight, so if you give too much pressure, it'll definitely give you some flashing, especially when it's this hot. So we'll top off that sprue. Okay, so I ended up doing 2 different pours. The one on the left has less brown color because I added some brown in off camera, but there's not enough of a difference for what I'm going for. The one on the right side definitely is a little bit darker. I don't know if it's showing up on camera or not, but I need it to be a little bit darker than that, so I'm going to add a little bit more brown in, and then we'll be good to go. Okay, so I think I got my color where I want it to be. I added literally hardly any more brown in there, but I just wanted just a little bit darker. You probably wouldn't even be able to tell on camera, but something just was telling me go a little bit darker, so I did. And now we're going to get our first run of baits. And this mold, you know, pours really good. You can make different colored tails. There's another mold that you can buy that does just the tails, and then you can kind of piece them together by putting the tail back inside the mold, and then you can have different colored tails than the body of your bait. And it's a really cool effect. I got another video that I did not too long ago doing that exact thing. And we'll check these baits out here in a second. Okay, well, it's time to check on our baits. So we're gonna take the clamps off, open up our mold, and I like how those turned out. That's a really cool color. The purple's very subtle, but I think that, you know, in the water, I think that purple's gonna pop a little bit more, especially with sunlight going through and all that. And yeah, I think these definitely turned out good, and I definitely think they're gonna catch fish. Okay, so I figured while those baits are drying in that last pour that I did, I'm gonna get 1 pour of the Midwest Finesse worm done up, so that way you guys can get an idea of the size difference between the 2 baits, because there is a difference in size, and I just want to be able to let you guys visualize it so that way you can see it for yourself, because I would imagine that these might be 1/2 inch or so shorter than the regular Midwest Finesse worms, but I definitely think they'll be great Ned Rig baits, both of them. Okay, so our Midwest Finesse are ready to go. We're gonna pull off our clamps, open up the mold, and those turned out good as well. They almost look lighter than the Caney Creeks for some reason, but they definitely turned out good. It's a cool color, definitely a fish catching color. But we're gonna come over here to the Caney Creeks that I have on the towel right here, and give you guys an idea. Pull one of these Ned worms off, pull one of the Caney Creeks off, and kind of give you an idea. They're actually the same exact size. Let me give you a close-up right here, but those are them side by side, and they're pretty much exactly the same size. But you got to be aware of what size hook you use in the Caney Creeks, because a lot of this bait gets taken up with the tail, so you don't want to have too big of a hook in this bait, because you'll end up going into the tail, and that's not what you want. So I wanted to give you guys another look at these all together. As you can see, they're definitely about the same size, but you definitely need to make sure you pay attention to the size hook you have in your Ned Rig jig head itself, because you don't want too much of that hook to go into that. You don't want any of that hook to go into the tail or anything like that, so just keep that in mind. But I definitely think both of these Ned Rig baits are going to catch some fish.
So guys, if you guys want to see me catch fish on these baits that I'm making in today's video, you guys got to definitely check out my Shasta stuff that's coming up at the end of January. That's when I plan to use this stuff the most. I've got some Midwest Finesse jigs already already made up. The Ned rigs themselves already made up, and these things are going to go on there perfectly. And I know that those spotted bass up there are going to catch them. So I know a lot of people want to see the guys that make the baits catch fish on the baits, and you will see that on my channel. So if you're new to the channel and that's something you want to see, make sure to subscribe and you'll be able to follow along, and you'll see baits that I make in videos that end up catching fish and some of my other stuff. And usually when I do catch a fish on a bait I make, I include that information in the fish catch itself, like, hey, I caught this on a Boss Hog by Do It Molds that I made myself, or you'll recognize the bait from something that I made in these videos, in these tackle making videos. So I know that's something that a lot of people want to see, and you will get that here on my channel. So if you're new, make sure to subscribe. And if you want to see some of that stuff, being some of the stuff that we made today being used to catch fish later on, make sure to check out some of that Shasta stuff coming up. And maybe I'll splice some of that footage together with some of this footage to kind of have a streamlined video that shows, you know, making the baits and catching fish on the baits. We'll see how it goes. If I can catch a few of them on it, then that's probably something that I will do, so stay tuned for something like that. Well, those are the baits. I think they turned out really, really good. These Caney Creek gliders from my Do It Molds turned out really good. I really like that watermelon color. I like the transparency of it, and I definitely think that that purple is going to pop a little bit more when I get them out in the sunlight and into the water. Definitely a clear water color, and you know, you can't really beat a natural green pumpkin watermelon color or anything like that. So these are definitely going to catch me some fish. I'm confident in it, and stay tuned for more videos coming your guys' way from my Shasta tournament coming up at the end of the month. You might even see these make a cameo in some fish catches. That's going to be it for today's video. If this is a color you guys like, just make sure to kind of pay attention to what I said as we went through the video to get that recipe for yourselves. Make sure to check out the description also, because a lot of links are going to be in there. A lot of discount codes for like Waterland, 6 Cents, Omnia Fishing, and GCI Outdoor are also in the description of today's video, so make sure to check that stuff out. And that's going to be it, guys. And also, this is a pretty simple color, so anybody new to making soft plastics, this is definitely a color that would be good to start off with. You can catch fish on something like this pretty much anywhere, so give it a try for yourself, and I think you'll be surprised at how effective it is. And I appreciate you guys watching today, and I will see you guys next time. See ya!